Hey, hello there. Thank you for joining another class. Let's wait to see if everything is fine. Testing, testing. Hello, hello. Good night. Good hey, day. Hello there. Okay, this sounds good. So today's class, we'll continue learn about selection command. And sorry, is this other file here, selection command. Let's see the preview. And we learn about the if command. Is the most fundamental one and can be used all the time for any selection. There is another command that exists in different languages as well. That is a switch or the case. So this switch statement or command basically is a specialization of an if to make easier for certain cases. Something like this. We will compare a variable if matched with one specific value, and then we need to do something for each one of those values. This is the syntax. So we use the switch command. We put the variable here, and then you have several cases. There is a few catch here. Every case, we have to put a value, and then we put here what commands we want to execute. Could be a very long line of commands. And then break at the end to indicate that whatever is executed if the value is this is going to be ended here and everything else is ignored. And then you can have as many as you want. If this variable here does not match to any one of those values, then whatever is in default is going to be executed. So default is like if, else, if, else, if, else. And then we have an else at the end. If none of those values like match, what is here is going to be executed. One simple example. We get a variable called day, that is an integer, and then we say switch day. So basically it's compare day to all this case. If case is 1, print Monday. And break. So if this is true, we execute this and then we break and then we don't do anything else. If day is, for example, 2, this will be false, this will be true, then we run this, print Tuesday, and then we break. So as you can see, is a replacement for a sequence of nested if commands that is easier to read. When you are doing just a small thing, this is a better approach, it's cleaner. I would say that 95% of the case we use if, and eventually here and there we use some switch when it is appropriate. And there is some explanation here why to use a switch. So it's good because remember, if is generic, we can use to any comparison. In this case, usually we are check if is equals. There is some new change in .NET, in C# that we can use some evaluation, but the classical understanding of switch is just a perfect match. If this is equal to this, or is equal to this, or is equal to this, one of those is going to be executed. So in some cases, as we can see, it's easy to read. So I know some engineers that hate to use, not hate, but they avoid to use switch. Myself, I don't have a good memory, so I forgot to write how to use switch. So most of the time I just write ifs. Does not change like anything. The code is not faster or slower. But in some case I like some specific case because I think it's easier to read. When you are selecting option compared to a specific value, so then I use this. And there is some tips here for beginners. So use if when you need to check condition like greater than, less, or wherever something is true or false. Look that here we don't have greater or small, it's just equal. And use switch when you want to compare one variable against many constant values, like this. We are comparing the day against the constant 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Not for 1, 2, 3, or anything else will be another day. Always include a break in each case. So when you do this, I think you cannot even compile if there is no break here. There is some language like C that the break is not required. So as soon as one is true, we start to execute the other ones until we find a break. But in this case, is required. And use default when you are in a situation that if the value is not equals to any of this, you want to do something else. Cool? Okay, so now let's solve the question of today that, if I'm not mistaken, is the question 11. So in the question 11, we are doing this. Read the current hour, military time, 0 to 23, and print the appropriate salutation. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Nothing else was given. So in this case, we may try to Google to see exactly how this should be used. I don't know exactly. I know good morning is up to noon. Afternoon is afternoon up to maybe 6 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m. And then evening is maybe until 6, 8, 10, and after that is good night. Sometimes we get a requirement like this. And like I said, don't get stressed if you don't know, because the only thing we need to know is, okay, I have a problem, I can find the solution, and when I know the solution, I can just write a code for it. So let's do this. Let's get this here, and let's use a little bit of AI about, not to solve it, but just to see something like this. How and I change here from agent to ask. So he is not going to build any code. It's just a question. Most of the IDE that has AI, you have the option to do that, to say how I can decide based on an hour military time. What salutation I should use. And then I will paste this. Let's see what is going to happen. And by the way, if you're working, don't trust just in AI or Google. Oh, look, it's not what I asked. I didn't ask for the solution, but let's just stop here and let's copy this. Let's not use the code itself because we're going to build it. So let's just hide this. And what you do is, imagine that this was part of the specification. Many times in your career, you face a situation like this. You get a problem statement, but you don't know exactly how to solve it. And then you have to figure out, you have to ask. Don't stress yourself, because depending of the industry of what the company where you work, you are not supposed to know that. You need to find someone, find some documentation. The two things you should not do is just say, oh, I think this is the way, let me do it, and let's see what happens. The other thing is just find one single source and trust it. You have to clarify. So good morning, as we can see here, is like from 5 a.m. to 11. This is interest. I will not do like this. I thought like from noon until maybe 11 will be good morning. And here say good afternoon from 12 to 4 p.m. or 16. Good evening from 17 to 20. So wherever company you are work at, confirm this. Never build software before you know what is expected. Otherwise, you're going to be building code and then redoing it and cause troubles. So let's do the input. Console.write, and then I will give a message, time or hour, and I can give a hint like this, hour in military time. and I put the 2 points here actually. And now let's declare a variable that I'll call hour, and then we know already that we need to pass it, and then we're gonna use console dot read line, and then deal with no and this. Now what you do? Well, as we can see, there is some checking here. When we're gonna print good morning? When this is true. And you need to figure out, oh, is this inclusive or not? This is some mistake that's happening in code. The engineer see this and think, oh, if it's 5, our red is good morning. But sometimes we don't know if the interval is closed or open. So always confirm. So in this case, we assume if the hour is greater or equals to 5 and hour is smaller or equal than 11. Oh, not and, is and like this. Some language like SQL or some other language we use and, so sometimes you get confused with it. So if that is the case, we can do something like this. We can say, I'll change this a little bit later on. Say console dot write line, and it'll be good morning. And if not is the case, I will put an else and another if, and then I check for the next interval. So if, if hour. Pay attention that if hour is greater or equals than 5 and is more than 11, goes here. So now, but I have to pay attention that 4 does not go here. And I cannot assume that if it's from 0 to 3 is good afternoon. So I have to check if hour is greater or equal than 12 and hour is smaller or equal than 16. So if that is true, I will print good afternoon. Another else if, and then I'll check the next interval. If hour is greater or equal than 17 and hour is smaller or equals than 20, we'll say print good evening. And now what we can assume, if it's not any of those cases, we can assume that it will be greater than 24 or smaller. So we don't need to test again. That is the beauty of use like nested if. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 conditions. And we know that one of them has to be true. Unless there is a negative hours that we learned that we can do some tests about that. I'm gonna talk about that later on. So in this case, if it's not any of this, we can do something like this. Good night. So imagine that you are in your first assignment in your company, or you are doing a job interview, and you get a question like this. Sometimes they put this as a warm-up. And even good engineers can fail, like what, based on the expectation. So what we need to do, test. We cannot trust any of thing that we do or AI provide to us. So what you do, I change this to run our new problem, 11. So let's put a breakpoint here and let's run. Boom. And in this case, it's kind of easy because I can say, okay, let's try good morning. I will put like 5. So we'll test this 5. Let me remove those guys here. And then locals, we can see what 5 is greater than 5 and is smaller than 11. Yes, it's true. So you print, and then remember, we ignore everything that is in the else. And then we go to the end of this chain of if, and then we just print good morning. If we run again, oops, let me go there. Let me move this here. And then let's type, for example, 2 in the morning. So 2 in the morning is not in this interval, is not in this interval, is not in this. So we assume that is good night, because good night is from 21 and 4 p.m. Cool. So now let's do another test. Let's run and put like 4 p.m. to see what happened. So this is not true because 4 is not greater than equals, and then we go back there and you say good night. And then you do the interview, or you just publish your code and you go sleep, or you think, oh, I nailed it. I'm gonna get the job, I'm gonna get the offer because so easy question. And then eventually someone is gonna test, or a user is going to provide something like this, minus 15. This is not even a valid hour. And what I'm trying to show you here is that sometimes a good engineer is not the one that is smarter, is the one that can solve a very complex problem. Is the one that can protect the code to everything that could happen that is not expected. So look in this case what's going to happen. We'll say good night instead of say, well, that is not even a valid hour. So this will be the solution of a beginner. If you do an interview, it doesn't matter how experienced you are, and you don't ask, oh, may I assume that the hours is just this? Or there is a chance that where the data is coming from, the user or another system, could be invalid. So if that is true, we should come here and do a test. If hour is smaller than 0, because remember, I think can be 0, so 0 can be 0 and 23. Or hour greater than 23, what you should do, you should print a message. We'll learn how to deal with those cases later on with exception treatment, but right now we can just say, okay, let's be very clear and say invalid hour. And we can do interpolation here to say something like this. And then this is the hour that the user provide. The hour has to be a value between 0 and 33. And we can even say inclusive. So sometimes people understand between or as 1 to 22. So all depends. And then else, we put all this inside the else. Let me ask to format the code. Let's see if it's, where is it? Format all. So why this is a better solution? Because here I make sure to do some, they call sanitization. I'm getting the input and I'm testing. If hour is a negative number or is greater than 23, I just gonna show a message, invalid hour and whatever hour is, and they say the hour has to be a value between 0 and 23 inclusive. So now if I run, let's put the breakpoint here. and remove it from here. And I put like a negative hour, -5. This test will catch it because hour will be 5, -5, that is more. And pay attention that here we are using or. If this is true or this is true, we're gonna get into this case. And we'll print, and then we ignore everything that's in the else. So is that why, let me close this guy. It's important to understand the difference between or and and. And is true if both are true. So in this case, to be good morning, hour has to be greater or equal than 5 and at the same time is smaller or equal than 11. That is exactly what we do. See, that is natural. If it's greater than this and is smaller than this. Cool. And then if I run again, let me run again. And then let's always test the case 0 to make sure that you are not testing something like that. So 0 is possible and 0 is not morning. 0 is good night because good night is from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. And then we print this. Maybe in another company, they'll say, oh, good morning is everything from midnight to 6 a.m. Remember, there is no problem or no program that is going to be the same, that is going to be the correct solution for every company, every case. Every program is solving one problem for a particular business, for a particular company. Cool? That's why we, let me delete all those breakpoints. All the breakpoint that uses here, and this bother me sometimes. So this is the idea. Is difficult? No. We have to pay attention to detail? Yes. Do you need to test and be good on that? Yes. A better engineer is the one that does better test than the one that is very smart and lazy. We can translate this to sport. For example, sport, there are talents. But if the talent is not along with effort and dedication, the person that is more dedicated will always win in the long run. The same here. If you are persistent, if you are hard work, if you pay attention to details and you do the basic thing, you provide better software than someone that is not. Cool? Maybe there are some bugs here. Yes. Is that why later on we will learn how to prepare code that is going to test them? And then if you change the code and do a little mistake, we can do. Because like if I change this, I have to test my code all again. And this is a waste of time. So we're going to learn about unit testing, that today is a very fundamental skills to have. So that is the idea. I hope you got this, because coding basically is this. We get some value and we decide what you need to do. Oh, another thing that I'd like to show. As a software engineer, we need to be careful when we are repeating one thing over and over. As we can see, we have here the console write line 1, 2, 3, 4 times. We'll learn more about how to improve this later on, but what I could do is, okay, instead of just have this all the time, I could have a variable that is a string called salutation. I could start it as nothing. I show this you. Let's just try this salutation. And then here, instead of print, I will just say salutation, receive this. I will do the same here. 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 And here. In this case, it's not a big deal because is anyways just one line of code. Oh, sorry. And sorry. And what I do is, after all this, I do console.writeLine and then salutation. Do you see that that warning is gone? Because I was not used it. So what happened here is we are declare a variable, and instead of having multiple prints, we only have one print or one write line at the end. And what we do is we use this variable to store whatever we want to print. I like this because the same way that we want to print, we may need to do something else. So I always like to store. And someone can say, oh, but you are wasting one variable. Yes, if I have multiple console write line, I will save that variable, but still this string is going to use memory for it. So at the end of the day, I'm not saving anything here, but I'm going to have one variable that there is a name, and I know that I'm just writing a salutation. We change our code, so in theory, we should test everything again to trust this code again. This is the pain I want you to feel, so we can learn how important is unit testing. So if I put here 15 hours, or I remove the breakpoint, and 15 hours was good afternoon. Let's run it again, and let's put like 3 in the morning. So 3 in the morning, we don't get here. Pay attention to this salutation. Right now, we're going to learn about this is no. No is kind of, there is no value yet. It's wait for get a value. It's in the undefined. And then we go here, and then we get good night. And now the variable is good night, and I just print that variable good night. So this is a solution a little bit better than the previous one. Not a lot better. Maybe in an interview I could write that way. But as a refactoring, like an improvement, I would say, okay, let me give a name to this value that is a salutation, and then I print it at the end. This show a better maturity, like you are more experienced if you write a code like this. Cool. And we put a safeguard here to protect. Is that why code there is so many bugs? Because if we get this and we comment it, our program now has a problem. We will run the code, and then if I put a negative value, we're going to give a response. If I put like 100, we're going to see 100 that is good night, no? Because it's not going to be any of this, it's in the else. So, for example, let's put the breakpoint here and let's run. If I put like 100, the user maybe did a mistake, or the file or another system send us an incorrect value. We should never trust it, so it will be false, false, and then we go to the else, and then we print good night. And this could cause some trouble. Cool, so we will remove this, and this will be a better solution. Cool, and remember, many times you get an assignment or a task that the problem statement does not have all the details how to solve. The coding part is with us. How to solve it is with us. But sometimes what needs to be done, we don't know yet. We have to figure out. And it's very rare that everything in an assignment is clear. A good engineer will maybe go for documentation, have some phone calls to the user to clarify. That is a skill that a good engineer has to develop. If you're a junior, maybe someone else is going to get this information and give it to you already. If not, then you have to hunt for it. Cool? And this is a skill that AI will take longer to replace. This ability to really understand, to translate of the business need to requirement is where AI is going to help to find those information, but we cannot trust, because AI is going to find through some previous data that was scrapped and they use in the learning process. But sometimes it's not what your company needs. We have to be accountable for those things. Cool. So I hope you got this. Thank you for watching. God bless you. See you next class. Accountable for those things. Cool. So I hope you got